the name Cuomo doesn't necessarily guarantee you election as the governor of New York, as we know.
There's a new Harris poll out this week that showed that many Americans believe that President Bush is the reason for our economic problems and the situation that we're in. Do you think Americans, or at least those surveyed in that poll, have it wrong? Or
I'm not familiar with the poll, but yeah, I do. Look, my personal belief is this. We had a minor downturn in the economy. The economy during the course of the Bush years, despite the fact that we had a recession, the bursting of the tech bubble occurred on our predecessor's watch. You didn't hear us say the NASDAQ losing 50% of its value starting in March of 2000 woe was us. We just set about solving the problem. We had 9/11, we had war, we had an economic turmoil, and yet our economy grew. When it came into office, the size of the American economy was $9.7 trillion. When Bush left office, it was $14.2 trillion. We grew the economy by almost 50%. That $4.5 trillion in growth that occurred on Bush's watch is larger than the size of the entire Japanese economy. Now, what happened? Well, we had two government-sponsored enterprises called Fannie and Freddie. Between 1938 and 2000, they went out and bought $2 trillion worth of mortgage-backed paper. When we came in 2001, the Clinton-era regulator, Armando Falcone, came in and said, you know what, I think these people are cooking the books. They are over-leveraged. They're increasingly allowing and making possible liar loans, zero interest, and zero down, interest-only things. This is going to create a problem. There's a bubble developing, and it's these people who are causing it. But I don't have, as the regulator, the authority to go in and subject him to the same capital requirements like a banking regulator, or credit union regulator, or savings and loan regulator. We then started to go try and regulate it. And we started working with Congress. I write about this in my book, Courage and Consequence. I detail the response that we received from Democrats on Capitol Hill as we moved to regulate them starting in 2001. The Democrats, including your senator from this state, Schumer, defended the activities at Fannie and Freddie and said no regulation was needed. The two villains in this were Chris Dodd from an adjoining state and Barney Frank from another adjoining state, both of whom said led the effort against any regulation of these two institutions. In the 4 years, 2001, 2, 3, 4, that we are moving to go regulate them, and we finally get a bill done in 2005, they go out and buy an additional $2 trillion worth of mortgage-backed paper. They bought as much in 5 years as they bought in the previous 62 years combined. In 2001, they were leveraged maybe 8 to 1 or 10 to 1, which means a 10 to 12% decline in the value of their underlying assets would wipe them out. We got a bill through in July of 2005 through the Senate Banking Committee. And then Chris Dodd showed up on Congressman Shelby's doorstep, Senator Shelby's doorstep, and said, every Democrat joins in a filibuster if you bring this bill to the Senate floor, including the newly elected senator from the state of Illinois, Barack Obama, who was the third largest recipient of Fannie and Freddie contributions. And the bill died. In the next 2.5 years, they went out and bought $1.4 trillion more of mortgage-backed paper. They were facilitating all these bad actors. And at the end, they were leveraged 70 to 1. That means a 1.3% decline in the value of their assets. Mortgages would wipe them out. And guess what? They got wiped out because there was more than a 1.3% decline in home values and hence in the value of their portfolio. And why did it happen? It happened because the Congress created two publicly traded institutions who were nonetheless creatures of Congress, and then Democrats refused to regulate them. The two biggest financial institutions in America, who held $5.4 trillion worth of assets, were completely unregulated because Democrats in Congress refused to let them be regulated. They finally turned around and voted for that bill in September of 2008, but by then the damage was done because they were broke. So if they want to talk about responsibility, and I know the President likes to talk about it, maybe he ought to start taking responsibility for him joining a filibuster of regulation that he ultimately voted for, but after the damage was done. Two financial institutions who, when they went down, almost took the American economy with them.